Riverdale can be as ridiculous as it wants to be, and we can all roll with it. So while we don't know what's going to happen in the next episode with the funeral, with Hermione back, and Veronica dealing with her grief, we do know some extra things about the superpowers, which gave me the freshest of chuckles. And that is because apparently Jughead is Daredevil in Riverdale.
The Marvel Comics fan in me was at first like, yes. And then the logical person in me was like, what? This doesn't make sense. But then, like, does anything in Riverdale make sense? Um, I don't know. I'll roll with it. Like, I'm a fan of Jughead when he's handled right. I'm not sure this superhero vigilante, like whatever, if he gets superpowers storyline will be right for him, but let's see where it goes.
Whatever happens to Jughead, we're gonna hear about it because he likes to complain. I'm sorry, guys. I tried to be nice to Jughead and I don't like him. I'm sorry.
Well, it's because before he can get the power that like Roberto says that he may possibly get, we know we're getting an in-between episode where he like laments the fact that Betty and Archie got powers and he's losing his hearing, and why me, and I'm always drawing the short end of the stick, and we'll spend like 15 minutes of like Cole getting a monologue where Tabitha has to sit there and listen as he just cries, perhaps even in a hamburger, about what's happening. Unfortunately.
My prediction is, though, that I don't think any of these are going to last, right? Like, it's part of the spell, curse, whatever that happened with Cheryl, and whenever she gets back in her own body, I feel like it all is just going to fall away, and they're all going to be like, oh, wait. And it's going to happen like Archie's going to punch somebody and he's going to start bleeding. Yeah. He's like, I'm not Superman anymore.
Like, oh, no, wah, wah.
Or Betty will not sense danger when she needs to. You're right, it'll come into play when they really need it. It's interesting because they finally done this super heroic story off the back of Riverdale, where that stuff kind of wasn't out there in Riverdale. So I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. It feels like they finally opened that door after they literally just did it in an alternate dimension. I know that was done to maybe make us buy it easier, but you're like, if we've done it already, do we need it now? But then on the other hand, maybe the fact that they've done it now, or it's done it so close to Riverdale, Rivervale, that's exactly the reason. Because if the two things go hand in hand, Roberto said we're going to see that like continue to loom over the show. So I do think that gives a shelf life on it, because it feels like Riverdale set the season up for the story, whatever it is, in the kind of the same way that Armageddon set the Flash season up. I do feel like it'll continue to loom over it, and some of the thoughts, feelings, and themes that were explored in Riverdale will continue to play into this. And I agree. I think that has to give it a shelf life, because by the time season 7 comes around, I don't want to see Archie opening his shirt and a big red A on his chest. So I feel like Riverdale's appeal is that it keeps reinventing itself. It's basically the TV version of Madonna. It's got a new look every season. I feel like season 6 to me, even with superpowers, doesn't look that different to season 5 yet. So I feel like the superpowers will take it in that next step. But in order to reboot itself one more time for season 7, I do think they'll probably need to let the superpowers go whenever that is.
I've seen a lot of or criticism, I would say, because critique implies that it's productive. I've seen a lot of criticism on Twitter of the direction the season is going in, just from people that don't even watch the show. They're like, oh, they're doing superpowers now? How does that happen? It's like, well, it's not completely out of the realm of possibility for the show. Like why not? Like, who cares? I say that a lot. I'm like, who cares? Obviously, a lot of people think that it's not a good idea, but like, I don't know. I just think it's an interesting direction to go in, and it's obviously not going to last, because when has anything really lasted on this show? Not in a bad way, just like they keep going through genres. But I guess I'll get to that in my roast of Twitter.
I think it's fun. Like, that's the thing about Riverdale. Like, as ridiculous as it is, it also is incredibly fun, and off the wall. I mean, I don't think anyone is truly watching Riverdale for it's not prestige television. Like, that's not what you're going to Riverdale for. Sometimes even the plots don't really connect the dots the way that they need to be connected. And that is okay, because they've already conditioned everybody who's been watching for a while not to expect everything to connect, just enjoy the ride. My question though is whether or not that means that like people who found out about the powers will now tune in, because the ratings were they were a yikes. There's the series low for them. Was it 250,000 people tuned
Yeah,
in?
you had an I told you so moment. You knew Riverdale Sundays wasn't the move.
It wasn't. It wasn't. I mean, to be fair, I think no one should judge until we at least get 3 episodes in to this arc. And I say that because the 5 episode Riverdale event happened in the fall. Then they're supposed to come back on March 6th. Then they got moved to March 20th. It's a whole they came on the Tuesdays. Now they're on Sundays. It's just it got moved so many times that people have to be able to know that Riverdale's back on. And I know that it's back on. And I think some people will, just to see what these powers are.
Yeah, it got moved too much. And like we've talked about this, the whole like era of network TV is on its way out because of streaming. So on the night ratings shouldn't matter as much anymore. They will continue to, at least for a little while longer. But at the end of the day, people need to know when their show is on and when they're watching it. And that show got moved twice within 5 episodes. And like, how are people supposed to keep up with that? Because it got moved, it's only aired 6 episodes in nearly 6 months. And most of them have been on different nights than any of the usual Riverdale nights. And the fact that Riverdale was in the 9 p.m. slot, after The Flash, and got some of the lower ratings. And then the most recent episode was moved back to Sunday night in the earlier slot and still managed to get lower than that. I can't see why those alarm bells and worries are starting to go off. But I know what you mean. In general, I think we should wait a little bit longer because, like I said, like you said, like we all said, how is anyone supposed to know when the show's on if it keeps getting moved around so much?